Hello and welcome to this quick look at the Final Fantasy XIV Endwalker's benchmark. This will briefly cover performance. If you want bunny boys or analysis of the shown content, look elsewhere. I've run this on a variety of systems to see how it performs, but in short, you don't really need to if you're already playing the game. Performance isn't going to be that different compared to what we have today. If you're happy with your current settings, there isn't a need to change them. On screen now are the FPS numbers I got. Personally, I aim for at least 60 frames a second for a smooth experience and trade off image quality and resolution to attain that as necessary. I'm not presenting the scores from the benchmarks directly since they're less tangible. To see the average FPS values, hit save scores after running the benchmark. The slowest system I ran it on was my old gaming laptop, which has a GTX 1050 and an Intel 7300 HQ CPU, which is quad-core 4 threads only. At 1080p resolution, the desktop high preset gave around 50 frames a second. For a smoother experience, I reduced it to standard desktop, where it averaged 80 frames a second. The other systems had GTX 980 Ti and higher GPUs, and they had no trouble running well above 100 frames a second at 1080p high desktop setting. Upping the resolution to 1440p, the 980 Ti did take a hit, but it still managed over 60 frames a second with max settings. Up once again to 4K, the 980 Ti was starting to struggle. It required dropping to standard desktop setting to maintain over 60 frames a second. It should be noted that the CPU isn't constant in its testing, and it will have some impact on the overall results. Past testing with the Shadowbringers benchmark showed relatively little variation in performance once you're over 8 threads equivalent or higher. That was over 2 years ago. Today, with better CPUs and GPUs than I had at the time, we might be seeing some more visible CPU influence at higher frame rates. For most people this isn't important, as the game doesn't really benefit from insane FPS like some other games might. One final thing to note is the benchmark obviously doesn't stress the system in the same way the game does, especially when there are a lot of players on screen at once. So consider this to be a good case, but not the best case. While I haven't compared numbers directly with the older benchmarks, I found those, on average, reported lower average FPS than you would get in-game during normal play, so it's not really something to worry about too much. I'll leave it there, thanks for watching and see you on the moon.